Hi, welcome to Kick-Ass Dad. This is Chris Eischen with the Full Circle. I'm excited about our guest today. Today I am sitting down with Thomas Fiffer. He is an ethics editor at the Good Men Project. Excuse me. He's a graduate of Yale with an MA in creative writing from the University of Illinois. He's the editor of Westport's Hamlet Hub. He has a daily blog as Tom Aplom. How do I say that last name?
A
Tom
plum, yeah.
Aplom. Okay. And is a storyteller with Mouse Muse Productions.
hmm
So, welcome, Tom.
Thanks.
Thomas. What
Thanks.
would you prefer, Tom or Thomas?
Tom is fine.
Okay. So, wow, it seems like you got like a pretty good, pretty long resume there. Um, what really drew me to you is I had seen a couple of articles that you had written on Facebook and just really related to the material that you had written. And so I thought it'd be great to kind of get to know you. And could, could you kind of share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am 49 years old. Grew up in the northern suburbs of Chicago. Had a pretty quiet, eventful childhood. The signal event was my father dying when I was 9, so that had some shaping of me. But I have a wonderful, supportive family. Two older brothers. My mother's about to turn 90 in at the end of July, and I mean, I guess where I come from with my writing is that I try to analyze and understand the experiences that I've been through, whether that's the loss of a parent, whether that's marriage that was less than functional, whether it's parenting two boys who are just about 12 and the younger one is 8. And I try to use the writing skills that I've developed over the past, whatever it is, 20, 30 years to to make things clear to people that might be difficult to understand from more of a clinical or scientific or you know medical psychological perspective. But I try to use metaphors and I try to use examples from everyday life that resonate for people and help them to understand a lot of the stuff that they're experiencing.
That's awesome. I really related to your article. You were talking about being married twice. I just got finished my second divorce here. It was about 7 months ago,
hmm
and I just related to everything that you were talking. You talked about trying to be like a fixer. You tried to help them so much that you get so focused in making them happy and their needs, and that you completely set all of your own priorities completely aside. And that's really how I came into this whole the Kick-Ass Dad podcasting and everything that we're doing with this is, my wife had moved out, and I was really left alone to figure out what the heck I was going to do with myself because I had
hmm
spent so much of my life, the past 10 years, just trying to be there for whatever it was that she needed. So your article there just really spoke to me, and it was really powerful stuff. So thank you for writing that, and wow.
Well, thanks. I think that if we grow up as people pleasers or getting a payoff ourselves out of making people happy, which is a wonderful thing to do. We make our parents happy, we make friends happy, we make a girlfriend or a boyfriend happy or something like that, and we feel like, well, that feels really good, because somebody smiles at us and somebody rewards us for that. But it's it's easy to fall into a trap of thinking that that's sort of what life is about, or that's what we're always required to do is to make the other person happy, and somehow people who sort of bring the other side to that package, people rely on other people to make them happy. People who externalize their own happiness and think that it comes from somewhere other than inside of themselves, they find us and they attach to us
Right.
because we are trying to give that sort of happiness, and they're all too ready to sort of take it. But the problem arises is that it's never enough. Whatever we give to people who sort of fit into these behavior patterns, it's never enough because unless that happiness is coming from inside yourself, it won't ever be enough.
Yeah. Now, how did you find that that affected like your relationship with your kids as well?
It did early on, and I think it certainly does now. I got divorced from my first wife, who's the mother of my children, about 7 years ago. So my older son was 5, and the younger one was under the age of 1. So, but so it was. I think it was affecting them less then. Although my older son, he has memories of fights and stuff like that come up. But I think now, as they get older and they're sort of more aware of, why isn't Dad married to Mom? What were some of the issues there? What are some of the things that went on? Why is life the way it is? It opens up some conversations about that with them because I want them to have healthy relationships, with their future girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever they choose. So it's important to me for them to understand some of the choices that I made and why.
I I noticed like with my son, he's 13 now, um, that I was so focused on trying to make everybody else happy that I wasn't happy, and
Mhm.
so my ability in connecting with him wasn't really there. Now my daughter, she's 4 now. She's gonna be 5 tomorrow. That's
Mm.
close, but um, so her, yeah, being younger, it's a little different. But with him being a little older, I noticed that I was frustrated and stressed out a lot more, and so my connection with him was more, kind of, I don't know, less loving.
But
And yeah, go ahead.
yeah, that's absolutely true. The happy children come from happy parents. Uh,
Hmm.
and so when we're stressed out, when we're worried about things, when we're involved in conflict, when we allow toxic stuff into our lives that gets us down, then we're unhappy. Then we wonder, well, why are my kids fighting amongst themselves? Why are they stressed? Why are they this? Why are they? It really pretty much all comes from us because I tend to believe that most children, I mean, unless they have serious issues of their own, most children are kind of naturally sort of happy, like they have a pretty good outlook on the world. They want to play, they want to do this, they want to do that. They're not, life isn't too complicated for them. But I think it's our vibe that can really make them stressed out, and that connection with them is so important. I mean, they really need to feel that connection and that love and that support, and knowing that we're there, and knowing that we love them no matter what they do. We don't have to like the behavior, but that we love our kids no matter what they do.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so powerful right there. Yeah, I found right recently, we just connect more, we hang out more. He's able to open up more and share more.
Mhm.
So there's a lot stronger of a bond that's now being created. And as I'm stepping into all of these things that I really that make me happy, I'm making that showing him, demonstrating to him how to have that in his life as well. And
Yes.
I recently started dating a girl, and our relationship has just I haven't been in one this amazing yet in my life, and this is the first time that I wasn't just giving, and he sees that too.
Right.
So,
That's
um,
that's that's excellent. So he sees that he has, he has rights, that partners are equals, that it's not lopsided or one-sided, and he sees you happy. And also, he gets modeling, which is important. He gets the modeling of love. He gets the modeling of how do two people who actually respect each other resolve maybe a conflict or a disagreement about something, which when kids grow up in these high conflict dysfunctional relationships, if they don't see that kind of modeling where people can actually just talk about an issue without going into a fight, then they're going to bring that same pattern into their own life. They're going to say, well, that's how dad did it, or that's how mom did it, so I don't know any other way to do it. I just get flustered and explode at somebody. So I think it's so important um, for us to make those healthy choices for ourselves as parents, so that our children can grow up seeing, oh well, yeah, that's how you work it out when you disagree about something. You don't scream at each other. You don't have to. So
Yeah, that's so key. We talk a lot on the show about the oxygen mask, and that you have to do a lot of that self work first before you can actually go and parent.
absolutely, yeah. You have to check your mood. You have to check where you are, and a lot of what came out of the therapy that I went into before and during and after my first divorce was this whole idea of conscious awareness, of being aware of what we're feeling, of being aware of what we're saying, or that maybe we're saying something that just comes into our head because it's a kind of a reaction to something, but it doesn't serve what we're doing, and that a lot of our behavior patterns have sort of developed that way, and we're not always aware of the reasons that we're responding to something, or what our triggers are, or things like that. So that this this being mindful and being conscious of why I'm feeling a certain way can be really helpful to changing how you respond to that feeling.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I mean, I had I can describe a moment of that. About a month ago, I realized that when my boys fight, and sometimes they fight over there are two remotes for the Xbox, but sometimes one of them's trying to grab it from the other one or whatever it is, and they were kind of reaching in the air and like struggling over this thing. And I got really upset. I started screaming, put it down, stop, separate. And I finally thought to myself, well, why am I getting so upset over this? It's just a remote. They're not hurting each other. And I realized that there was a moment from when I was separating from my first wife when she and I were fighting over my laptop. And she grabbed my laptop, and we were struggling over it in that position. And I thought, wow, I'm being triggered. I'm seeing my kids. They're fighting over something. And it was like in the same spot of the house too. And I realized that I was going crazy because this memory was triggered of that really horrible moment, because the police had to come after that. I mean, I don't want to go into the whole story, but it was one of those awful moments in your life. And so now when I see them doing that, I can take a breath and I can say, okay, you know, I don't have to go crazy about it.
Right, right. You're able to kind of center yourself.
Right, right.
Now, do you practice in meditation at all?
I don't do it actively. I sometimes I'll just sit in my office where I am now. I'll sit on the couch for a little while quietly. I pray in the mornings. I like to walk. I live in a coastal town in Connecticut, so I can drive pretty easily to the beach. And I like to walk along the beach. After my second, or during the second divorce, after the separation from my second wife, I found myself walking on the beach a lot at sunrise. There's a certain peace and a certain uplift that comes from being there, looking out at the water when the sun actually comes up. And I took all sorts of pictures of sunrises. But I guess I do try, at points during the day to center myself. But no, I'm not actively in meditation or yoga, though I've heard tons of good things about both.
Actually, what you're describing is a form of meditation. So yeah, a lot of people think like, oh, I have to be in a certain position, I have to do a certain thing to meditate, but we're debunking that myth. So yeah, you walking along the beach, just taking that time to be present and in the moment, and kind of allowing those stresses to kind of release. Uh,
Yes, and I've made some rules for my walks along the beach. Um, just like there are a few things that I don't allow myself to think about on that walk. I can't think about money when I'm on that walk. So like if I'm having stress over that or whatever, that walk is not the time to think about that because then the whole walk will be consumed, you know, with that issue and that issue isn't something that you can solve or address while you're on a walk at the beach. That's something that you solve or address by, you sit down with your bills or you do this or that. So I try to keep certain things, off the radar when I take that walk, and I try not to look at my phone too much either. I like to take pictures sometimes of the beach and the houses and things like that, but I also want it to be a connection with nature and with the outdoors, not reading texts or doing things as I'm walking along.
that is awesome. That's so powerful because too often, like to your point, too often we get caught up in all the stuff that's going around, in our lives, taking that, and then you go to take that time for yourself, and you're still focused on all that crap that's kind of
Right.
following along. So that's really powerful to leave that behind.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just recently, I took a walk along the beach with my son, and um, oh, camera's not working, huh? Um, I don't know if you can still hear me. Maybe you can. It's screen's kind of frozen up for a second, but um, I had this great walk along the beach with my son, and I think he enjoyed some of the peace and the calm as well.
Wow. So two kids. How now? What with your job? Are you, because you're a writer? Do you get the pleasure to work from home most of the time? What's your work schedule kind of like?
Yes, for the last several months, since I stopped working in New York, which I had done for 20 years, I am working at home, and so I can pick my kids up after school or do things with them, or sort of be out in the town during the day. The so for the Good Men Project, I can write the articles and publish them from here, and for the other online site, which is my town's online news service, the Workforce Hamlet Hub. I actually sort of have to be out and about because I'm covering local things that are happening in the town. In fact, this morning, just before our interview here, I was over at a farm. There aren't very many farms in my town because it's a sort of a typical, suburb, 50 miles out of New York. But these two uh, young, I want to call them kids, because they're in their 20s. Um, they they rent this a couple of acres of farmland from a 97-year-old lady who owns the property, and they've got pigs and they've got chickens and they've got ducks and they're growing all sorts of greens and stuff. So I was out taking pictures and interviewing them to write a feature story for the website.
Oh, that's awesome. So, like a holistic living type farm or
Um,
organic?
yes, it's definitely organic, and they sell a lot of their produce to local restaurants and people around here.
That's awesome. One of our kind of BHAGs, or big, hairy, audacious goals here at Kick-Ass Dad, is to really promote those like community gardens and local
Mhm.
farming. So that's awesome to hear about. And
Great.
it's neat to see that you're involved with writing on all that stuff. I mean, I see you have so many different things now, are you currently working for the Hamlet Hub, and you're doing your daily blog? And what's the storytelling with? Mouse Muse Productions. What's that all about?
The I have a friend in town who runs a I don't know even exactly what you would call Mouse Moves, like a creative collective sort of. She's really a producer of events. So she puts together these storytelling or spoken word events where she gets six storytellers, and she has a coach who listens to the stories first and makes sure that they're good. And then we each have 10 minutes to tell a live, true story about something that happened in our lives. And sometimes she'll set a theme like travel or broken hearts or embarrassment or something like that, so that the stories all have a particular theme. But I've done five or six of them, and it's really been a lot of fun to stand up in front of an audience of anywhere from 25 to 75 people and tell a story, and it dovetails with the writing too, because whether you're telling a story about one of your experiences or whether you're writing an article that encapsulates a period of your life, you're still telling a story, and it has to have a certain arc. You have to grab the reader somehow at the beginning, so that they can identify with you, and then you have to kind of take them through it, and there has to be some kind of payoff or takeaway at the end for them.
That is really neat. Yeah, that would be awesome to be involved with. Um, I want to kind of go back. You were talking about your kids and how you're not working in the city anymore, and so you're able to have a little bit more time at home with the kids. Like, has that really helped your relationship with them, like after your marriages and all the struggles that you kind of went through, being at home, being able to pick them up from school and do all that? How's that affected your relationship with them?
Oh, it's improved it dramatically, because I've gone from um, getting home at 6 o'clock, or getting them at the train station from their mother at 6 o'clock or whatever, and having to scramble to put a dinner together, and then we get homework done or whatever, and by 8:30, 9 o'clock, like they're supposed to go to bed, which they don't. They go to bed a little later than that, because they value their time. But that was a very structured, kind of rigid sort of life, and there wasn't a lot of tolerance for stuff like, if I was getting them up because I have them every Tuesday and Thursday night, so if I was getting them up in the morning and then I had to catch my train to work, breakfast dishes have to be cleared, everything's got to be put away, house has got to, because I don't want to come home to a mess. So there's like this pressure, and now there's less of that pressure. There's more ability to enjoy the time, and to provide them, with the security of a parent who is present and there. And I enjoy picking my son up from school, and driving them in the morning and stuff. It's fun for me, and I see a lot of other dads doing it. It's, I mean, if you look at mainstream media, or you read some of these articles, you'd think that fathers don't do any of that sort of stuff. But I mean, just as well as anybody, we're all doing it, and a lot of men have either flexible schedules, or they go in late, or they do stuff because they want to be participating in their kids' childhoods.
Now, did your divorce kind of help you? Okay, so you work from home, or somewhat you work in your community, within your community, uh, and you left working in the big city, so you have this time with your kids and all that. Is that something that you chose to do, or kind of got into that path like after you separated with your wife? I mean,
No, I mean, I worked at a publishing company in New York for just about 20 years. I was eased out of that job in January, um, and thought about, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to look for another job where I have a 50-mile, hour and 20-minute commute, or do I want to try to make a life out here? I live in a beautiful town, and like to enjoy what it has to offer. So, I thought about, well, how can I try to make that work here, and how can I use my talents and my skills, which primarily are, it's writing, um, to create a different kind of lifestyle.
Hmm. What was your motivation for that? Just the fact that you were kind of easing out of the other job?
Yeah, and I mean, I was spending 3 hours a day on the train, getting back and forth to work to do something that I could really do anywhere.
Hmm.
I
How did
mean,
that change your financial? Like, was that a big hit to your financial? What the revenue you had coming in? Was
yeah,
that a big?
it is in the short term, but what I'm doing, a number of things sort of came together to help with that. I had taken the job at Hamlet Hub just before uh, they let me go in January, and so that was helpful. And then with the Good Men Project, that is giving me a platform. And my intent is to publish some books on relationships and the things that I'm writing about. So the Good Men Project and the popularity of some of those articles is giving me the author platform that I need to sell some book proposals.
Yeah, that just so you know, the reason I was asking those questions is because I kind of for myself found that as once my wife moved out, I did some self-reflection on where
Hmm.
I was in my life, and we've had quite a few listeners kind of speak on this point, so that's kind of why I'm hinting, getting to that.
Sure.
Um, is so as for me and some of our listeners have had the same experience. As you go out and you start to get more in depth, looking more at yourself and what it is that makes you happy as opposed to pleasing them all the time,
Yes.
that you do that self work, and all of these other people kind of are drawn to you that are in alignment with what your true passions are, and these opportunities just start popping up that you never would have noticed before. And so for myself, I currently work for I'll just say General Motors. I usually say the auto industry, but anyway,
Uh-huh.
yeah, General Motors, and I work nights, and I
Mhm.
work primarily 12-hour days, and I'm
Right.
finally able to leave that job so that I can do what you're doing and work from home. But that never would have been possible if I wouldn't have started with that self work. And so that's why I
Right.
really was curious with you if that's what you've been finding, is that as you kind of do this more internal work and just stepping away from being that constant people pleaser and start working on yourself, that you found all these opportunities kind of coming at you. So
Yes, I would say that's correct because I started my blog 6 years ago, and I was writing every morning on the train on the way in, and that was my time of self-discovery, was to explore these topics, or write about the stuff I was learning in therapy, and that did lead me to a greater awareness that the 9 to 5 job that I was in had a nice income, but it wasn't really satisfying any of my passions or goals or dreams. It was simply financing a certain lifestyle, and so I was really ready to leave, to move on to something else, and had been kind of building the writing platform on the blog, which takes a lot longer. I mean, I got it up to a nice number of page views per month, but there's nothing like the Good Men Project where you can. I mean, mine haven't hit this yet, but a really good article on there can get a million or more views uh, from someone. So And yes, it sort of did all come together. I mean, literally within a week of my departure from that job, and I'd been writing for the Good Men Project for on and off for a couple of years. Up pops, they're looking for an ethics editor. So in goes my, in goes my resume for that, and there you go.
Right. It's it's just powerful stuff how that happens because we're always, or for me at least, I thought you just go do your job and you just work at whatever you can do to make money, and that's kind
Right,
of separate from everything else. But so for me that realization is like, holy smokes, I can follow a passion, and I don't have to know how, but it's going to come to me. The how will come as I step into the why, and the why
right.
being that self work, right?
Yes, exactly. And the how does come. It comes from places you didn't expect, or it's right around the corner, but you didn't see it, so you're sweating something out, and then suddenly, oh wow, I didn't, that's great. I didn't know that was going to happen. And that is a pretty amazing feeling when you step into what what you really love to do, and knowing that you're doing something meaningful for other people.
hmm And it kind of comes full circle to that point where when you're walking on the beach in the mornings, if you would have brought that stress with you of, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? You so focused on the how, right?
Hmm.
Um, that you don't allow that moment to be present, and so it even blocks you even more from stepping into that or allowing these opportunities to kind of present themselves that are out there that you just might be blind to seeing because you're so worried about all these other things that don't really matter.
That's right. We worry about them, and then we're either programmed or conditioned to operate in certain patterns. As you were saying, you grow up, you go to school, you get a job, you do this, you worry about those other things later. You wait until you're retired to do the stuff that you love and care about. Well, you know, there's no guarantee on anything. I mean, we might as well do some of it now as much as we can.
I don't know if you're a fan of Jack Canfield, but I've been reading his success principles,
Hmm.
and he talks about a lot of that in his success principles. And until I really started to see that happen in my life, it was kind of like, whatever, like
Right.
there's no way. I have to do my job, and then I'll worry about that later. you know.
Right.
And so to your point, like we are so conditioned to believe that that's the way that things have to be. And I just
Hmm.
love the fact that you as a writer, you're even seeing that within yourself. And it's not that you're doing something completely different in your line of work, it's just how you do it, right?
Right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's uh, I don't know. Here at Kick-Ass Dad, it's about our relationship with our kids, but the primary thing that we talk about is that oxygen mask and doing that self work and that self healing. And I really feel that what you do for your work, how you make your money, is a
Hmm.
huge relation to how you show up as a parent.
Yes.
So really being able to step into something that you love to do, and enjoying your 9 to 5 or the daily grind, really reflects on how you show up when you're home with your family. So.
That's true. And when you mention that oxygen mask, I think that this isn't this isn't true in every marriage or relationship, but it's true in a lot of them. Is that men get stuck in relationships where there's kind of a double standard, where like, honey, I need a spa day, honey, I need a break, honey, I need this, honey, I need that. I'm the mother, I'm so stressed, I'm taking care of all this stuff, and you know, yes, that's all true, but in many relationships, there's no acknowledgement that men need the same kind of break, refreshment, whatever it is, and it's not necessarily like, you know, going to the game with other guys or something like that. It's more like, wait a minute, I need this time for myself. I need to go take a walk. I need to go do something that I really like that de-stresses me. And I think again, I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but I think in a lot of relationships that need on the part of men is not always taken seriously or looked at as equal to the need of the sort of stereotypical overstressed mother.
Right, absolutely. I and to speak to your point there, and I'm glad you brought that up because that really opened up some thoughts in my mind of my past relationship. Um, is that my ex-wife wanted to go to the gym after work and work out so that she could try to lose some of that baby weight and everything. And so she'd take an hour to go do that. And so this whole time, I'd wake up in the morning, get the kids ready for school, send them on to the bus, go to work, come home, get dinner ready, help the kids with their homework, and she. In the meantime, she's at work. She gets off work, she goes to the gym, has her time, and then she comes home and she wants to relax. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't get that time for myself. I mean, she didn't look at the gym as her time. That was just something she needed to do to work off her baby weight in her mind. But
Right.
for me, it was, yeah, but that was an hour of time that you got to do what you wanted to do. I haven't
Right.
gotten that hour to do what I wanted to do. So, then I have this resentment build up, and, like,
Right.
when am I getting my time?
Mm-hmm.
And then I will hang out with the guys for, an hour on the weekend, and I get a bunch of, you know, well, why,
Right.
yeah,
How
go out with the
dare you?
guys.
Yeah.
Right, it's like, I need my stress reliever. Yeah, so to speak to your point, yeah, we overlook our own needs so often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow, that was a really good point. That brought back a whole flood of
Yeah.
thoughts in my.
Well, sounds like you experienced it, and I did too. And in that, and then if you're with another person, right, who's
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
maybe
Yep.
dismissive of or or sometimes sometimes you get set up like, oh yeah, go ahead, spend the day with the guys, that's fine. I just and afterwards you get slammed for it. So, you left and you this is what happened when you were away. So it's hard stuff.
Yeah, like a catch 22. Like, yeah, oh, I got free time, but you're gonna pay for it later.
Right. Right. This whole, and that brings up something else about relationships, which is that, you know, yes, in all relationships, we all make accommodations. We have to because, no one is going to have or get everything that they want. And there is what you would call a give and a take. But when it becomes transactional, to me, that's problematic. When it's like, you got this, so I get this, or you do this, so I get that, and if that attitude sort of takes root, if there's resentment that gets built in with that attitude, then it's hard. I mean, you know, I think that we can probably meet in any given relationship. We can probably meet, you know, 75 to 80% of the other person's needs in some way or another at our best. Um, and but sometimes it's imbalanced, and that's just the nature of it, and when it becomes, you're going to pay for this thing that you did, that eats away at the companionship part of the relationship. And I've been in that situation as well.
That kind of rolls over not even in like a marriage type relationship, but just our relationship with people in general. Is if we're keeping a tally,
Right.
then that's not, you're not doing it out of compassion or out of love or out of caring for that other person. You're simply, you know, keeping that even a balance sheet. That's
Right.
not a real relationship, is it?
No, it isn't. It's a it's some kind of transactional thing. But yeah, it's not. You're right. It's not a real relationship.
Right. So, doing things out of love isn't like, well, I did this, so you have to. If I showed you this amount of love, you have to show me something of equivalent value. Like, wait a minute, I just did that out of love. That's
Right.
it.
Right. Oh, and then that leads to that statement that is just a to me it's the killer. If you loved me, you would. You know, right? So,
Wow. Yeah, you're. I have a feeling that we're going to be chatting some more here in the future.
definitely, definitely.
We just have so much in common, and we see things from such a similar perspective. I love how people we have different terminologies for things like the meditation, for an example. Um, but once we realize what the terminology is that we're using, we can really relate, on a deeper level. And that's
Hmm.
one thing we focus on with the show because it's not it's not that we're anti, God, but a lot of people tend to get turned off by the word God. So
Right.
we talk about spirituality in oneself, and just that terminology. Here we are, we're talking about the relationships and all those things, and it's just interesting how terminology can change our perspective on things.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, words. Choosing the right words for something or the right label. I wrote a post on a status on Facebook a while back about how this power of labels. That labeling something, you can make it cool, you can make it hip, you can make it this or that or whatever, or you can make it terrible, just all by the word or the label you apply to it.
yeah, even though you might be talking about the exact same thing.
Right. And I'm working on my book now. It's based on a Good Men Project article, which was the seven deadly signs of a dysfunctional relationship. And to me, the term dysfunctional is an important one because it's a very open term and it's kind of a very forgiving term. It's not like it doesn't pigeonhole it into high conflict relationships or narcissism or borderline or like all the other things that people sort of bring into those relationships. It's just the idea. You know what? It's not working. Something isn't working. Something isn't right. It doesn't feel good. You know, it's not making me happy. And so let's just apply sort of a generic kind of label to it, and then we can look at what the source or the cause of that dysfunction is, and see if we can either address it in some way and make it work better, or if not, then maybe those two people aren't meant to be with each other.
Right. That I'm glad you brought that up because I've had for myself, after reading that article that you wrote, I posted that on Facebook, and I had people responding to me, "Oh my gosh, I feel like this guy's speaking from my perspective right now," and I thought the same thing when I posted it. So, obviously, what you're writing speaks to a lot of people. So the fact that you're writing a book about it, there's definitely a need out there for people to see that they're not alone in their feelings, and to be able to show how you can go from being in that relationship to changing the relationship, that they not always need to be walked away from in order
Right.
to, but it definitely does take the two parties to be
Yeah.
open to.
Exactly. And you have to change yourself, and it's I think it's a lot easier for people to say my relationship is dysfunctional or not working in some way, and or buy a book about it and try to learn about it, than to say, my husband's a narcissist or my wife is a borderline or this or that. It's not quite as much of a leap.
And we do tend to want to do that too, don't we? Like, oh, she's crazy, or
Right. Yes.
labeling what's wrong with them, even though it was like the term you used is dysfunctional. That's exactly what it was. It was dysfunctional in all areas. Not, and you say this in your article too. You're not taking blame away from yourself. You're standing up and saying, "Yeah, I did things too." Not necessarily, might not want to name them all off right now in this article, but
Right.
you know, it's like, yeah, I know I had faults in my marriage and my relationships,
Hmm.
but you know, there was that dysfunction in it, and but we tend to want to focus on what's wrong with them.
Right.
Yep, and I get that a lot from my ex too. You know, going around town. Wow, he did this, he did that, he did. Well, that's your perspective. You may have felt that I was doing those things, but
Right.
in my head, wasn't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, the perspectives are always going to be different. We can only see things from our own perspective, and try. I think we can understand things from another person's perspective, but then that's also where the reality check helps and comes in. You run it by a friend, or several friends, or here's what just happened. I mean, I put another status on Facebook last week that got a ton of responses. I said, is there a name for it when someone does something to make you upset? You call them on it, you draw your boundary, whatever it is, you say this wasn't right, and then they act like they're the victim, that you're doing something to them by calling them on it. And so I get all sorts of words, psychopath. People said, but the 30 people who comment on that, they've all experienced that in one way or another, from a partner or a friend or whatever. Someone pushes your button or your boundary. You say, hey, no, that's not right. You can't do that. And then the person you're saying it to acts like you've hurt them. So looks like it's frozen up here again for a second. Well, there you are.
okay, yep, we cut out and came right back. So, I was just kind of just telling the listeners where they could find you at thegoodmenproject.com.
Wonderful.
Is there any other way that you'd like, if anybody has any questions or comments that they have for you, that they can reach out to you?
They're welcome to email me. It's Tomaplomb, TOMAPLOMB at tomaplomb.com. And I want to thank you for doing this. This was great. It's really enjoyable to chat with you, and we'll do it again.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I really look forward. I see some big things for us in the future. So thank you so much, Thomas, and I'll talk to you soon. And this will
Okay.
be available if you want to go. It'll be posted on YouTube. It'll be on Google Plus and Facebook, and then on our website at kickassdad.org.
Okay.
And available this Friday. I'll be posting it onto iTunes. So on our podcast.
Okay. Thanks again, Chris.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye bye.